Hey everyone, welcome back. So in my last video about having a comfortable, safe, and fun day hike, I started talking about trekking poles a little bit, and today I just want to expand on that. So the first part of this video is actually going to be a replay of the segment where I got into talking about trekking poles, what I liked about them, why I think you should use them, and the different style. And then I'm going to go ahead today and expand a little bit on that about the different trekking poles that are out there. And then I'm actually going to go through and show you how to properly use trekking poles so that you can have a comfortable hike. So I'm going to go ahead right now with the first part of that footage, and then we'll be right back with you. First, we're going to talk about trekking poles. A lot of people are actually on the fence when it comes to trekking poles. Some say they're useless, some say they're great. I've actually started carrying trekking poles with me, and that was mostly after meeting up with somebody on the trail who said that the trail that I was going on actually was very muddy, very rocky, and he really suggested it. I've used these trekking poles probably about 3 or 4 times, and I will tell you, a lot of the trails that I hike are wide open, they're flat, they're not many rocks, so it mostly just sits in my back. I've come across areas that were so very rocky. They had a lot of roots, a lot of the rocks were loose, and let me tell you, trekking poles will help you keep your balance. Keep you from turning an ankle, which you really do not want to do out in the woods. You sprain an ankle out in the woods and trying to get back is not fun. So these are great. This particular one here has a rubber footing for if I was actually to be like on a road or something. I can take this off, have the spikes for mud or for ice. And let me tell you, in the wintertime, you want trekking poles because slipping on ice is not fun. The other thing trekking poles will do for you is if you're doing any stream crossing, some of your rocks are going to be covered with moss. They're going to be very slippery. This can actually help you with your footing so that you actually put it down on the river bottom, and as you walk in you can maintain your balance. You want to make sure you have a good adjustable one. Now I suggest the one with the snap style clips because they're quick to release and adjust. Plus also they have a screw where if these clips get loose I can tighten them up. I'm going to do a whole video about using trekking poles and the proper way to use them, but basically in short, not only providing stable footing for rocks, roots, and crossing rivers, they also help save your knees. Now, somebody who's older like me, that's actually a good thing because, our knees wear out fast when we get older if they're not already worn out. So the good thing about that is as you're hiking along, it'll distribute your weight. You can actually use it on a hill to pull yourself up. Going downhill, you can use them as brakes, especially if you're doing a steep incline. So a couple things you want to look for in trekking poles, like I said, is good, adjustable, spring-loaded. You want to look for ones. I've lost these rubber clips. Personally, I think they're useless, but you want to make sure they have a good spike, especially for mud, winter, and river bottoms. The handles on them, you want to make sure they have a good adjustable strap. I'll do a video on trekking poles about the proper way to use your strap so that if you do take a fall, you're not going to break your thumb. The handle on your trekking pole, there are several different types. Now, this particular one here, as you can see, is plastic, but it does have holes to make it somewhat breathable, although it's plastic underneath. Some of them are solid plastic and some of them are cork. I will tell you that during the warmer days, anything that's plastic, your hands are going to sweat, which can ultimately make this more slippery. cork will actually repel and absorb the sweat and give you a better grip. The only problem is you really want to be leery of the quality of the trekking pole that you get, and that the cork does not actually start breaking off. But any basic one, I think I probably paid $20 at the most for these. These were, you know, just a basic set to try out to see if it was worth it. Okay, so in my last video, you know, I talked about this style right here that actually has the quick release snaps to expand, and then I got into why I do not like the twist type. I actually have a pair of trekking poles with me today that are from a pair of snowshoe equipment. They came with the snowshoes I actually got. Now, a little story about how I got into snowshoeing. Moving back up to the New England area was something that I really wanted to do. Get out hiking in the wintertime. I was looking at the prices of snowshoes, and to me they were a little expensive for the amount of time I might actually get out. And then my local job lot started carrying the inexpensive $30 to $50 type that came with trekking poles and a bag. But from working at a thrift store, I actually picked up the same exact pair, brand new, never used, still all clipped together, tag still on it, for $5. So that's how I got into snowshoeing. And the poles that came with them are actually the type that I'm talking about that I do not like, and let me show you why. Okay, so these are the poles that came with them, and you can see I have them fully extended. The reason behind why I keep these fully extended is these have exactly what I'm talking about. As opposed to having the quick release levers, these have the twist style that uses compression to keep them locked. So you notice what has happened with these. The twist mechanism on them actually kept coming loose, and even though I tightened them, the poles would collapse. So I had to use a pair of pliers to tighten them up so that they would not collapse down on me anymore while hiking. But as you notice, you can see I still got about a ½ inch gap. So even though I literally can't collapse these down anymore, something has either happened with the spring mechanism or these little twist things are not holding as well. Now, these are anti-shock, so they do have a spring in it. So it could be that the spring is just not adjusted properly or working properly, but that's the exact reason why I do not like the twist type. Now, most of your trekking poles will have some sort of markings on them to help you size them up properly. Personally, I do not fully go by these markings. They tell you that, you know, so many centimeters should be weather adjusted at for the size person you are. I actually go by my height. Now, what's good about this is once I got this set, then I can quickly adjust the other ones. With these being snowshoeing ones, they're actually adjusted a little bit too high for my height, because when I'm snowshoeing, you're actually going to be on top of the snow, and then these are going to be down further. So I'm going to go over, switch back to my other poles and show you the exact proper adjustment, how to use them, and again, why I don't like these twist type. Not only do they not hold securely and I had to use pliers to tighten them down, eventually, if I do keep adjusting it, these compressions are going to wear out, and then you'll ultimately get to the point that you're not going to be able to tighten them anymore. Same thing when I'm selecting tripods for my camera equipment. If I got to keep twisting and adjusting this and it's using compression, that's not going to work properly. They will wear out, and once they wear out, it's almost impossible to properly replace these. So with these style here that have the clips, like I talked about in my last video, if for some reason the screws get loose, I can go ahead and tighten that up, or I can actually find another clip and replace it. And then once they lock into place, they pretty much stay. As far as these little cups, mud and snow cups, to me, in a way, they're almost as useless as these rubber cups on the bottom. As you saw on my snowshoeing ones, I have lost them, and then these haven't actually come off yet, but they've come close. So let's go into the proper adjustment. What you want to do when you're properly adjusting it is you're going to take one of your poles. Your poles are actually tapered. So you have a small shaft, and then you have the upper shaft that is larger. When you're adjusting them, you always want to make sure that the upper shaft is extended more than the smaller shaft. It's going to provide greater stability. It's going to keep them from bending. So the way you want to properly adjust them, loosen up both your clips. So the proper height on these is you want to be about waist high, not quite a 90-degree angle. So once I got the poles properly adjusted for height, what you want to do to grip them is, I see a lot of people do this improperly. They come in through the top and grab like this. Problem is, you got this strap right here that's going to put pressure on your thumb and on your hand area and on your wrist. If you hit a rock or take a fall, what's going to happen is this pole is going to get knocked out of your hand. And see what's happening with my wrist and how it's bending? You can easily pop your wrist, sprain your wrist, and these straps can break the bones. So what you want to do is come in through the bottom, like this, and then grab your pole like this. This way here, if you hit a rock or take a fall, see how when I release, I'm not going to pop my wrist. So again, improper way would be to come in through the top, and you can see I'm risking breaking something. So once you grab your poles properly, have them on your wrist, have them adjusted properly for height. As you're walking down a trail, what you want to do is you want to do opposite leg, opposite hand. Takes the pressure off your knees as you walk around, kind of like you see people using a cane. Help me maintain my balance, especially if I'm in a rocky, rooted area. You know, it's going to keep me from stumbling. If I actually hit a rock or something, you know, I'm going to brace myself. Keep me from turning an ankle, because you really do not want to turn an ankle out in the woods. So now I'm going to take you over to the hill. I'm going to show you a proper way to climb a hill with trekking poles and how that actually is going to help out your knees. I'm going to show you the proper way to descend a hill, how that's going to help you against slippage. And then after that, we're going to go find a stream, and I'm going to show you the proper way to cross the stream. Alrighty, so I don't know how well this camera is going to pick this up, but I got a steep hill in front of me here. When I ran cross country in Callahan in my elementary school, grade school days, middle school, we used to call this Agony Hill. It's a little bit of a steep incline, but at the time when I ran cross country, this was mostly loose dirt that we had to go up. So, but this hill is going to represent probably a typical hill out on a trail, although some that hills you might come across might be steeper than this. So I'm going to show you the proper way how to use a trekking pole on a hill like this, how to ascend up it and descend down it. Okay, so I got my backpack on and I'm hiking along the trail. I come up along a hill like this. Right now I'm hiking without trekking poles. So I'm gonna go ahead, start climbing the hill. And as you notice, as I'm coming up steeper on the hill, what's happening is I am leaning forward just because of the incline of the hill and the amount of grade on the terrain. Plus I've got my backpack on. So the problem with not having trekking poles and climbing a steep hill is you're going to be leaning forward, okay? The weight of my pack on my back, I can feel that it's starting to put pressure on the lower part of my back. And especially, you know, someone like me who's injured my back, that's gonna cause a lot of pain and ruin your hike. Not only that, my pack is pretty empty today because of this video that I'm shooting. I'm not actually out on a hike. Could you imagine with my gear on a day hike, if this was loaded and I'm coming up a hill? You know, as I'm coming up a hill, I'm getting more and more hunched over as the terrain goes on more of a steep incline. Not only that, I am putting pressure on my knees. There have been times where the hill was so steep that literally I am putting pressure on my knees. So that's going to tire you out very quickly. It's also going to put strain on your knees, put strain on your back, cause a lot of pain. So what you want to do with your trekking poles is, you can see now that because of the terrain, they're actually too high. You want to go ahead and shorten up the lower portion. Now remember, your poles are tapered. So this is thicker, then it gets skinnier and skinnier. You want to shorten up the lower portion so that you maintain the thicker part, which is going to provide you with the more strength to be able to pull. So I'm going to go ahead, depending on my terrain, and then this is why I also like the quick grips, is I'm going to shorten up my pole. Okay, so now you can see I am still almost at that 90 degrees with the elbow. I'm almost at the 90 degrees as I stand lower and my pole's up ahead of me. I'm gonna go ahead and shorten up the other one to do the same thing. Try to make sure they're about equal height. And now as I'm hiking up the hill, and again, I'm gonna go opposite hand, opposite foot. Notice what's happening now as I'm hiking up. Okay, I'm able to maintain a much straighter posture so my pack is not holding me down. I'm actually using the poles to maintain my balance. The other thing that I'm doing as I'm hiking up, doing the opposite leg, opposite hand like you're supposed to, is I'm able to, and let me take these little cups off since it's softer ground, is I'm actually able to go ahead and pull myself. So I'm using my arms more to pull, which is actually taking the pressure off my knees. So whereas before, without the poles, you know, walking up the trail, starting to get hunched over just because of the terrain, putting a lot of pressure on my knees, a lot of bad posture. You know, if you turn, you can see a lot of pressure on my knees, a lot of bad posture. With the poles, opposite hand, opposite foot, allows you to maintain proper posture. And I'm pulling with my hands, taking the pressure off my knees. So that's another great thing about trekking poles. Now I'm going to show you how to actually descend. Okay, so now I'm hiking along a trail. You know, I'm come to an area where I'm going to start going down a hill. A lot of times, especially in the fall, you're going to have leaves coming down onto the trail. They could be wet, making them extremely slippery. We've had a lot of rain. They could be muddy. If you don't have the proper shoes on, you can have your foot slip. You know, this hill has a lot of loose stone. So as I'm coming down without trekking poles, you know, I gotta be very careful I don't lose my footing. and actually slip on some of these twigs, some of these rocks, some of these leaves, and especially if they're wet or it's muddy or you have a steeper grade. You know, you've been walking along, your shoes can be full of mud. You know, you can do easily slippage, especially on these rocks, and fall. The beauty about trekking poles is it can maintain your balance and actually be used as brakes. So I'm going to go ahead, extend my trekking poles. Now, when you extend your trekking poles, again, what you want to do is you want to make sure you're extending by the thicker pot first and extend them up higher than what you would normally have them. And the reason, again, is because of the steep terrain. As you're going down, the good thing about these is if I was to start slipping or falling, I can stick these in and use them as brakes. So as my foot starts slipping, you can see, as brakes. Or again, in this case, if this foot starts slipping, again, as brakes, maintain my balance so I don't fall. You know, you saw there, my foot was slipping and I was able to maintain not falling. I was able to use them for proper support. So again, coming downhill, slippery, as brakes. Start slipping, I can dig these right in, keep myself from falling to the side, falling over as such. So that's a real great reason to have trekking poles as you're coming down a hill, especially if it's going to be slippery surface. Have them out in front of me, dig them in as necessary, keep from falling. And again, coming down without trekking poles, steep incline, if you notice, and I'm not sure how well it's going to pick it up, if my pack was full, I'm going to start leaning back to maintain my balance. And as you can see, it's pulling on my back, which will cause pain down there. With trekking poles, I'll be able to keep my balance as I'm using them as brakes. If I slip, go take a fall, I can brace myself. So now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go find a stream and show you how to cross a stream with trekking poles to maintain a very safe crossing. A lot of places you're going to go, hopefully you're going to have bridges, but bridges get washed out. Sometimes they don't replace them. You have heavy rains, it creates water runoff areas that are usually not there. Any water going over rocks is going to get slippery. So we'll show you how to properly cross water. Okay, so I'm up along a stream right now, and typically this is what it would be like if I was coming down a trail into a stream area. I'm going to go ahead and do this without my trekking poles and with my trekking poles. This is a real good example because there's leaves, it's muddy, it's wet. So I'm coming down the trail and I come up on this steep point and watch my feet. See how I started sliding? I can easily take a fall. Okay? And again, let's say I'm coming up the bankway, right? And as you can see, that wasn't staged, that was real. As you can see, I just started sliding. So now we're going to go ahead and do it with our trekking poles. Got my trekking poles in hand, coming down the same bankway, trekking along, starting to hit the muddy spots, sticking them in front of me, using them as brakes. See, I'm able to navigate much better without falling. And now we're going to go up the same muddiness. First I need to adjust them because they're a little bit too tall. And again, same muddy area that I was sliding. In the ground, pull. 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 As you can see, that was much, much easier. So again, now even if I don't properly adjust them, you can still use them as brakes. Keep from totally sliding. And again, coming out the same muddy area, opposite leg, opposite foot, back one to brace me, pull, 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 much easier. So hopefully I found a spot that's not as deep, although the water is still running heavy, so I gotta feel like my feet are gonna get wet no matter what. So I'm gonna show you crossing this little spot. Let's say this is our trail and I come across this. One of the nice things is I have a fallen log here that I can brace myself up against. 90% of the time that's not going to be there though. I can see that these rocks are very heavy covered with moss, which means they're going to be extremely slippery. So good point about using poles. I'm navigating down this bank. They're helping me maintain my balance. Finding areas that I can stick them right into the mud. And as I put my feet on rocks, yes, they are extremely slippery. So, good thing about this is it's helping me gain some confidence, maintain my balance. This log is actually going to be in the way. Always want to make sure of footing for your trekking poles. Here I come to a point that's a pointed rock that I normally could not step on, but I've got my trekking poles maintaining my balance. And I'm able to cross to the other side. Turning around in a river, again, use your trekking poles, maintain your balance. These rocks are extremely slippery. Make sure you can firmly plant them. Some of these rocks are actually loose. Again, you can see it's helping me maintain my balance, not slipping on any rocks, able to securely plant my feet, coming up the bank over twigs that might happen after severe rain and runoff. Again, plant, pull, plant, pull, plant, pull, plant, pull. Alrighty, well I hope this video has helped you out when it comes to trekking poles, as far as why to use them, how to use them, when to use them, proper use, how to prevent injury, how to help you keep safe and comfortable out on your hikes. Last part I'm going to cover is the fact that there's a lot of specialty trekking poles that are out there, depending on your type of activity. You can get trekking poles that actually have a V-shaped gun mount. So if you're into hunting, you can use it to prop and rest your gun. You can get trekking poles that have compasses built into them. You can get trekking poles that actually doubles as monopods. So I have a monopod that actually has an ice grip in it that I can actually use as a trekking pole, but there are specialty trekking poles that actually allow you to unscrew the top, and they'll have a 120 1/4 inch, so that it'll double as a monopod. You can get ones if you're older and you're not really going to be out too much on the trail, but you might need a little bit of help, that actually have the cane handles. I would say just be careful with those, is because now you're adding an element that the cane pot, if you do fall, can actually poke something. So I would use those more on a flat surface if you're older than versus, let's say, going up and down hills or on ice, but they can help you maintain your footage as well. Trekking poles have really come a long way as opposed to what they can offer as far as their outdoor activities, what's climbing mountains, climbing ice rocks, climbing ice sheets, hunting, photography, video. So please invest in a pair of trekking poles. It's going to make your hike much more enjoyable. So I hope you like this video. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Helps out the algorithm, helps out my videos get seen by more people. And we'll go ahead and we'll see you in the next video.